like everybody, I vilified livestock, cattle, sheep and goats, because I was brought up to believe that they were the main cause of land degradation. I was taught it at university as a biologist, ecologist. I could see it for myself. One day there was a knock on the door and it was an old couple, ranching couple. And I was very surprised they would come to my home. Anyway, I said, come in, have some tea. Turned out that they were passionate about their land, loved their land, and they acknowledged that their land was deteriorating, and no ranchers would acknowledge that. And they said, we've done everything that the Extension Service, the consultants, the research stations tell us to do, but our land is slowly but steadily getting worse. What you're saying makes some sense. Will you help us? It just hit me deeply that ranchers love the land as much as I do. And it led eventually to me understanding that we scientists for centuries have had the bull by the udder. You know, we've had it wrong.
All of our land is already degraded.
You can kill the soil with a plow just as easy as you can with a chemical.
Something has changed.
80% of all fabric and textiles hit landfill.
We need to understand nature because we've forgotten.
Holistic management opened up a huge door for us.
A way of managing how long animals are in one place and when they return to it.
My animals are my tool to make it grow, to make photosynthesis go.
The mortality rates decreased and people started living in peace.
It's not for my betterment, it's for our betterment.
Everything we do has an origin and an impact.
We can create a beautiful and just world that we want to live in.
If you had to bring it all down to one thing, it would just be that management needs to become holistic.
My initial career had nothing to do with food. I'd practiced as an advocate of the High Court, so practiced law, and I was really tired. And this was actually my aunt's business. She said, you know, Caroline, what you really should do is buy my butchery, small little family butchery in the corner of a suburb. The first 5 years of having the business, all I really did was focus on trying to be the best butcher I could. The problem being that I'm female and that I know nothing about meats, and so I started asking the question of where does the meat that I sell come from? Up until then, I simply bought meat based on what would give me the best cuts that my customers were wanting. And I think like a lot of consumers, I assumed that all cows and all sheep ate grass. So I met with my various meat wholesalers, and the largest at the time is one of the largest feedlots in South Africa. And I sat with the director and the sales manager and said, so, all full of enthusiasm now, tell me about the cattle. To which they were horrified and said, well, you don't need to know about that. What you need to know about what cuts are available and how cheap we can get them to you. And I knew there and then I had a problem, because I couldn't sell meat that I couldn't relate to. Like a good butcher, I went online and Googled what makes free-range grass-fed meat, and very quickly discovered the Savory Institute. It's been a remarkable connection, because what we are now able to do is all the inquiries that we're starting to get from farmers, we're able to say, well, actually there's a farming system for you. And it's not designed by us. It's an international organization that for many years has proven that this is a successful way to farm.
Cattle go everywhere on this land because they are the tool producing the wildlife habitat, making the rainfall more effective, etc. Do you see how much oxidizing grass just dying? You can see the amount of oxidized. Do you all see it? That's the big sort of evil that leads to woody vegetation taking over, grasslands dying out in the seasonal rainfall environments, or what brittle environments as we call them, that are about 2/3 of the world. Now, as you go around, you're going to see that we've got way too few cattle to keep pace with the production now. And so the instruction to the herders is do the best you can on the grazing plan, etc. But if they see an area like this, where a lot of oxidation is occurring, just crowd the cattle in. So the cattle are what will trample this down and keep the grass alive and prevent this process.
Grass-fed animals are proven to be a lot more healthy, even for the environment. They utilize the natural vegetation of the area that it walks in. So in that fact, the water sources that they drink from are natural water sources that are found on the farm for animal production. Crop production, you would have to take out more water than what the area itself needs. We control them to graze in a way that they naturally would, not going seeking out the best grasses only, but pelleting all the grasses and resources that are available to them. Like a predator would herd them into a corner and they would be forced to eat that. Because they are being put together, the hooves of these animals plow up the ground and all of the excretion and that goes back. So the carbon within the grass and within all the excretion, it's plowed back into the ground.
We're running one head here at Tipangombe, and it's a head of 546 cattle all together. We do move our crows after 7 days. We normally do have special sites for where we site our crows. We don't just go there without any reason. Mostly we site our crows on bay lands. You do have your land and you mark the number of paddocks you are supposed to have, so that you start to make your grazing plan. You have to go around all your paddocks to check the forage quantity and the volume of amount of hold in that paddock, so that at the end of the day you give the rating for each paddock. This is the grazing plan we are following. Right here we put the numbers presenting the days to be spent in each paddock.
Dixon and the herders are the most knowledgeable people about the paddocks. They know where the water is, they know where they're going to move the cattle, and their simple rule is take them out at dawn, bring them back last light, water them usually about midday or somewhere there, but don't graze the same area more than about 3 days. So that at the end of the season, it will have had at least 2 months or whatever recovery period they're planning. This land is improving faster than anything I have experienced on any commercial ranch with fencing. I've never seen land improve as fast as this.
That's because of herding.
Yeah, because of the herding.
So with the hoof movements, the seed bed also becomes more desirable. And you'll also see that sometimes when the grass is big, there's no growth going on in the middle, and the hoof action actually opens it up so that the sunlight can get there and photosynthesis can take place. So by utilizing the animals to produce beef from the grass, we're actually utilizing the animals to prepare the soil for the grass to grow.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. These people were singing.
Before we started holistic land and livestock management in our community, our land was bare. We used to have high mortality in terms of livestock. We used to have water shortages, and we are not really having peace in the community. But then the coming of holistic land and livestock into our area, we're now able to grow the forage for our livestock. Our livestock started becoming healthy, the mortality rates decreased, and people started living in peace. And food shortages, we're no longer really experiencing them in that manner that we used to have prior to the project.
So why isn't everyone in the world doing this?
You answer that question, and they aren't, because it's so counterintuitive. Don't forget what we're talking about here, of doing this through bringing on more animals and not less. It goes against ancient texts and beliefs, and I'm told ancient Hebrew texts, for example, you can read about them blaming the nomads for causing the desert. That's taught in every university in the world, every government agency, the belief of every environmental organization. So this is flying in the face of centuries of belief in that the deterioration of the land was just believed to be through overgrazing and livestock. Well, it wasn't. It was overresting. It was the opposite.
Zimbabwe is the furthest I've ever been in my life, but it was the most at home I've ever felt in my life away from my farm. It's certainly a much more brutal environment, but the demographics are much the same, the ruralness, the agrarian economy, the just so many things were more than just reminiscent. We're damn near exactly what I experience here, the life I lead here. There are many places on the farm that I've seen great benefit come from holistic management. You know, John Muir said that when you pull a string in nature, you see everything's connected. And for years, we ran this as just a monoculture of cattle. And when you operate a monoculture, you are choosing to fight nature. Nature abhors a monoculture. Nature wants a mixture of many different microbes, feeding many different plants, to feed many different animals. And when you choose to have a monoculture, you choose a system that will not stand unless it uses subtherapeutic antibiotics, pesticides, chemical fertilizers, ... Anywhere you look in nature, you see some birds in the mix. They serve a purpose. When a cow or sheep or goat defecates, these birds scratch in the feces. And when they do, they disrupt the life cycle of the pathogens and parasites that would be shed and given generation to generation if it was a monoculture. You know, in everything we do here, we try to emulate nature. All land that has been farmed industrially in the last 70 years has had some degradation. If we farm sustainably, that means we hold it at that level. If we farm regeneratively, it means we actually improve it. You know, I've been a cattle producer all my life. My granddad and my dad and me. I'm an expert in animal welfare, regenerative agriculture, and the rural economy. My job is to figure it out on the ground with regard to the animals and the land. You know, I have partners whose job it is to figure it out with regard to how to help inform consumers, how to get the product to them. Our newest partner that I'm most excited about it is Epic. I met the couple who founded it, the company, young couple, Katie and Taylor, by a campfire in Zimbabwe where we were all learning holistic range management from Allan Savory, which is a heck of a place for a farmer from Georgia and a snack bar manufacturer from Austin to meet. But that's how it started.
An Epic Bar is a meat bar, so we mix like high quality animal proteins with fruits and nuts. Some don't have nuts, some don't have fruit.
We were really focusing on two pillars, and the pillars were animal welfare and then creating high quality products that were healthy for end consumers. And we were missing that third piece, and we didn't know quite what it was. And then when we were introduced to the Savory Institute, that's when it just all made sense, and we got so excited about this land element.
And it really like completes that cycle, right? Like healthy soil creates healthy animals, which create healthy consumers, and all back around again.
So much of the really good work in regenerative agriculture has been done on a uber small scale. It's great work, but if you are going to impact millions of acres of land, you can't sell that at the farmer's market. There's got to be an infrastructure.
Well, and I think a lot of smaller ranchers don't see that their operation is scalable. But I think with holistic management, it becomes scalable. And once it becomes scalable, you know, like manufacturers like Epic
can start buying from them.
Having partners like Epic has empowered us to spend $7.5 million building processing facilities so we can operate on a bigger scale. Without this kind of partner, we can't do that.
If you watch the evolution of our farm, it's been a journey. You know, we set out to say, you know, we want to raise grass-fed cattle. And in doing that, we realized that once we were certified grass-fed, there was still so much more that we needed to do. And that next thing was processing animals on the farm. And then processing animals on the farm taught us so much more about you know, managing the byproducts, you know, turning that waste into something that's not only marketable but beneficial.
We need to utilize the whole beast, from the nose to the tail, right through. Because if you go to a supermarket and you see 20 fillet steaks lying there, that is equivalent to 10 cattle being slaughtered for people just to eat the fillet steaks. And as soon as we get the consumers on board with that, less cattle will be mass produced and more will be done in a humane way like we do it at this stage.
One of the things that we're doing is actually expanding our product line to what we're calling like the whole animal project. We're able to use fats for our rendered animal fats. We're able to use bones for our bone broth. We're going to be using skins for some upcoming product launches. So we're actually able to commit to whole animals instead of just like pieces of the animal, because I know that's really difficult for ranchers themselves.
Consumers want to know that you're trying to create something positive in the world. There's so much misinformation out there that animal protein is destructive, and consumers right now have some guilt about eating animal protein, whether it's unhealthy or it's not environmentally minded. And so partnering with the Savory Institute, telling the story of the ranchers that we're also doing business with, helps relieve that guilt and actually gets people really excited about eating meat. They eat our products and then they see the bigger mission that these products can actually restore or help heal soil and land.
I challenge people who are getting into consumer packaged goods to think about things holistically and strive for achieving like the truest value of business, which for us it's creating a net positive return to the earth. The animals are benefiting, the relationships with our ranchers are benefiting, our employees are benefiting. It's like a really wonderful way to operate a business.
Under Barry says something like consumers vote every day with their dollar on how they want the world to be. And if the consumer is satisfied with degrading soils and polluted waters and shrinking ozone layer and horrendous animal welfare standards, then just keep doing what you've been doing. There won't be a revolution without the consumer.
My challenge to them is to truly be informed. Ask questions, and if you don't get the answers that you want, investigate why you're not getting those answers.
What's necessary is for enough sophisticated consumers to learn enough about the food production system that they become aware of the unintended consequences that all this efficient, cheap, abundant food production has given us.
We are sitting in a world that's fundamentally broken. We've done this. We've done this through monocultures. We've done this through insisting that there's only one right way of doing food. When you start talking about eating better, the starting point actually is, well, let's just look after our planet better. Let's allow the biodiversity to come back by restoring our grasslands.
My granddad didn't do this for me. My daddy didn't do it for me. Yes, it's for, so I can hand it off. It's not for my betterment, it's for our betterment. And that's the point.
The moment that makes sense to the public, that management should be holistic, it will happen. It'll be like the Wright brothers. For 10,000 years, we didn't know how to fly. Thousands of men died. On a given day, they flew. They gave us the principles of flight. Within 70 years, we were on the moon. And I think that human spirit will fly just as fast as the public starts saying management needs to be holistic. Institutions change, because people in the institutions are the public as well. They want to change, they can't. Even with the leaders of institutions and organizations want to change, they cannot ahead of a public opinion.